Welcome guests. Please make your way to the ballroom. The program will start at 7 p.m. Please make your way to the ballroom. The program will start at 7 p.m. And now, Ann Godlaski, President of the National Press Foundation.
Good evening. Welcome to the National Press Foundation's 41st Annual Awards Dinner. As you can see, we are at capacity, and I am so thrilled to see you all here. I don't need to tell anyone in this room that it is a challenging time to be a journalist. From existential debates about business models and AI to very real threats to livelihood and our lives. But that makes nights like this all the more important. Not only do the funds raised tonight go directly to training journalists, but the awards allow us to celebrate the best of our profession. And we can carry that inspiration with us through what is sure to be a hell of a year. So to that end, I would like to introduce a few of our distinguished award winners at our head table, and please hold your applause until the end. From your left, we have Jen Sorensen, winner of the Berryman Editorial Award for cartooning, Knight Kiplinger, editor emeritus at Kiplinger, Dorothy Butler Gilliam, winner of the W.M. Kiplinger Distinguished Contributions to Journalism Award, Paul Beckett, Wall Street Journal editor, here on behalf of Evan Gershkovich, Amos Sneed, NPF chairman and president at Adfero. And to my left, we have Terrence Samuel, editor-in-chief of USA Today and NPF's vice chair, editor of the year, Monica Richardson of McClatchy, Al Roker, winner of this year's Taishoff Award for Excellence in Broadcast Journalism, ABC News correspondent Deborah Roberts, Kirsten Danis, senior editor of investigations at the New York Times, here on behalf of Hannah Dreier, and Kevin Goldberg, First Amendment specialist at the Freedom Forum and NPF's board secretary. Please now enjoy your appetizers, and we'll resume awards in a few minutes. The National Press Foundation's motto is making good journalists better, which many folks in the room here know because they are our fellows. Our intensive, intimate fellowships give journalists time and access to the top experts on some of the most complex topics of the day. And year after year, we see them go on to do in-depth reporting on those issues that have real impact on their communities. It's one of the reasons that we are so grateful for all of our sponsors here tonight. I would like to thank you all, especially Lenovo, for making these trainings possible. In the year ahead, we will do training on election coverage, discrimination, women in politics, mental health, international trade, rare diseases, and so much more. But first, let's take a look back at 2023.
The National Press Foundation in 2023 provided in-person training for more than 200 journalists and reached over 1,000 more through online meetings and webinars, all at no cost to reporters or their newsrooms. We gathered Capitol reporters from 22 states in Madison, Wisconsin, to learn from experts on election integrity, redistricting, and legislation on abortion and LGBTQ rights.
What this fellowship has done is really brought a sense of camaraderie as well as a unique perspective to really hone in on the topics that we're discussing right now.
In Washington, we capped the inaugural year of the Widening the Pipeline Fellowship for 25 journalists of color. Among other topics, they heard about making your career layoff-proof and making lived experience the bottom line. Many fellows have since achieved promotions and show confidence in being the leaders needed in newsrooms today.
This program has just opened me up to what possibility looks like.
Another year-long fellowship, the Paul Miller, welcomed its 35th class, bringing political reporters together each month to ask questions of top newsmakers and visit key institutions in Washington.
Some of the best experiences I had with people in the media were people that treated me as a person and not a story.
We held webinars, including an update on COVID vaccines, and we broke an NPF webinar attendance record with the topic Artificial Intelligence. In San Diego, NPF partnered with RTDNA to host nearly 100 broadcast news executives for a summit on criminal justice reporting, challenging the adage, if it bleeds, it leads. And in Singapore, NPF's International Trade Reporting Training introduced business journalists from around Asia to top sources on semiconductors, supply chains, and U.S.-China geopolitics.
China is a formidable competitor, but it is not an existential competition.
Another international fellowship covered rare diseases, including interviews with the FDA and the first sickle cell patient to receive the groundbreaking CRISPR genetic treatment. Other fellowships on public health included America's long-term care crisis held in Washington.
The number one thing, our system is messed up. Our caregivers are overburdened.
And Future of the American Child fellowships in Cleveland, Ohio and McAllen, Texas. These taught journalists how to cover policies and programs that impact the most vulnerable populations, our elders and our children.
To be able to learn from the experts we've learned from and interact with the other journalists that I was blessed and fortunate enough to work with this week. It's a reminder of why I do what I do and the impact that we can make on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you for supporting our mission of making good journalists better.
And now I'm happy to introduce NPF's small but mighty team, our journalism trainers, Rachel Jones and Kevin Johnson. Our operations team, led by Jason Zaragoza, whose name should be familiar to all of you by now, with a lot of help from Alyssa Black and Hope Kahn, and our hardworking multimedia team, Jeff Hertrick and Sydney Clark. I should not say this because it ages us, but we are an organization of journalists for journalists. We calculated once, and we have something like 120 years of newsroom experience between us. And so that is why we are so thrilled to do what we do every day. And I couldn't be more grateful than to work with all of you. So speaking of fellows and why we do what we do, I want to give our Director of Journalism Initiatives, Rachel Jones, a chance to say a few words.
I am honored to take this opportunity to recognize what this night is really all about. All of the funds that are raised from this dinner go directly to our journalism fellows. And so if you're ever feeling down about the state of the media, and certainly there's a lot of reason these days to possibly go there, just talk to one of them for just a couple of minutes. Their intelligence, their ambition, and their compassion give me and all of our staff hope every day. So I'm going to help you find them tonight. Would the members of the Widening the Pipeline class of 2024 please stand? And please remain standing. And would the members of the Paul Miller Washington Reporting Fellowship class of 2024 please stand? And if you are in this room and you have ever participated in an NPF fellowship, please stand. So look around you. This is your network. And so when this job gets hard, please remember that there are people working all across this country and the city, and they get it. They're in your corner. So let's give ourselves a hand in this moment.
And now let's get to the awards. The first of the evening is always an interesting one. The Clifford K. and James T. Berryman Award for Editorial Cartoons this year goes to Jen Sorensen. Jen's cartoons can be found everywhere from Politico to the Nib to the Nation. She's been a Pulitzer finalist and the first woman to win the Herb Block Prize in 2014. 2014! NPF judges praised her unique skill in taking on a galaxy of issues, which you're about to see for yourself. Congratulations, Jen.
Thanks so much, and I hope you all enjoyed your Newsgirl cocktails this evening. These are challenging times for those of us working in news media, and political cartooning is no exception. In recent years, I've seen colleagues lose their staff jobs, publications shuttered, and illustrated commentary purged from the pages of newspapers. Strangely, it seems being an editorial cartoonist is now a far riskier career choice than being an insurrectionist politician. If you're the latter, you might even get promoted or reelected. This is not a good sign for democracy. Given these difficulties, it's been a wonderful morale boost to win this award. I'm so grateful to the judges, the Berryman family, and to the National Press Foundation for continuing to recognize our medium. Several of my favorite cartoonists have been recipients of the Berryman Award in recent years, and it's an honor to be in such good company. I'd also like to thank my clients, The Nation, Politico, Daily Kos, in these times, and the alternative news weeklies around the country that still carry my work, like the Austin Chronicle, the Seville Weekly in Charlottesville, Virginia, and 7 Days in Burlington, Vermont. Additionally, I wouldn't be here without my newsletter subscribers, who have sustained me like a community radio station, minus the tote bags. My husband couldn't be here tonight, but he deserves a champagne toast for his excellent editing skills, tech support services, and relentless encouragement that makes the cartoon possible every week. The NPF has kindly invited me to share a few of my winning cartoons with you, so I'm going to do a short reading. This one is called Thinking Big. By 2050, I'm going to build a floating colony in the sulfuric acid clouds of Venus. We see someone looking at rentals for $3,500 a month. Looks like I'll be joining a homeless colony. My chatbot will make life better with good advice. Chatbot, what can I do to save my farm from extreme heat? Nothing, you will die. I'm going to buy the island of Nauru, build a lab, and repopulate a post-apocalyptic Earth with genetically enhanced superchildren. Or we could just fund schools. Sometimes I feel like our efforts to help humanity are unappreciated. It's hard to be a visionary. And, thank you. And continuing with the theme of out-of-control billionaires, in the early years, Twitter was so simple. Just ate a pretzel. Check out this raccoon in a tote bag. Oh, it's another tote bag joke. Trending, Follow Friday, the iPhone 3GS, lolcats. And in the middle years, we get an opinion column saying pretzels are emasculating our boys. What a doofus. He's right. You suck. No, you suck. In the later years, thank you. Pretzels are salted with mind control crystals. Look it up. This tweet may contain misleading information about snack food. Now, we have posts from Eel Crust. The bird is freed. Uh-oh. Now, this was actually drawn before it got renamed. And I actually stopped posting on Twitter because I can't in good conscience be on there anymore. And it is one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I found entirely new audience on Mastodon and Blue Sky. Highly recommended. Thanks. This one is called Height of Folly. A recent Consumer Reports study found that 10 children fit into the front-end blind zone of an F-150 pickup. Deadly front-over accidents have more than doubled since 2008. Obviously, we need taller children. It's time for stilts. Adult pedestrians should also meet height requirements. Ma'am, I'm going to have to cite you for short walking. As the trucks grow ever higher, we must rise to meet them. Maybe we should try regulating vehicle sizes. Are you kidding? That would be ridiculous. And there are many. There are many makes and models even bigger than the one mentioned in the Consumer Reports study, unfortunately, but no offense to any car manufacturers that may be in the room. This one was drawn shortly after the OceanGate submersible disaster. The hubris of these deluded CEOs thinking they can defy nature, assuming technology will let them do whatever they want, no matter how dangerous. Then the inevitable tragedy, dooming innocent people in a death trap. Yeah, the submersible disaster was pretty horrifying. Submersible? I'm talking about the whole planet. We cartoonists are sometimes accused of being angry or partisan, but that's not what motivates me. I'm not beholden to a political party or candidate. My loyalty is to evidence, democracy, and human rights. Sometimes speaking the truth as a political satirist only sounds angry because the truth is so ugly. I often hear from readers that my work helps to keep them sane. I get the sense that people are hungry for moral clarity and the feeling that they aren't alone. They see a terrifying authoritarian movement and too many news stories pretending that this is politics as usual. Both sidesism does not enable our readers and viewers to come to rational conclusions about the world, and it leaves people feeling that the media are being intellectually dishonest. I hope that as we move forward this election season, we can remember this. In the meantime, let's hope we aren't all replaced by robots, so NPF can continue honoring human journalists for years to come. Good luck to all of us.
Presenting the Feddie Award, NPF Secretary Kevin Goldberg of the Freedom Forum.
Thank you. The Feddie Reporting Award recognizes outstanding reporting about the impact of federal laws and regulations on local communities. This year's winner is Hannah Dreier of the New York Times for investigative reporting on the labor exploitation of migrant children in the United States. Hannah Dreier spoke to more than 100 migrant children, some as young as 12, in more than 20 states who work in long hours in often dangerous conditions. Her research and analysis combined with first-person accounts from migrant children for a written and visual presentation described by our judging panel as altogether riveting. It's so much more than that. It's arresting, It's sobering. It was uncomfortable to read. I'm sure it was uncomfortable to write. But it's also absolutely necessary in addressing the policy failures of several administrations, which is exactly what it's done, sparking congressional hearings, Department of Labor investigations, and the resignation of Biden domestic policy chief Susan Rice. Hannah's unable to join us tonight, but her editor, Kirsten Danis, is here to accept the award on her behalf.
Hello. As Hannah's editor, I'd like to accept this recognition on her behalf, but in honor of the children who took huge risks in speaking out for these stories. These were middle schoolers who had had their arms shredded by industrial machines. 14-year-olds who were getting up at dawn to work on roofs. They had nothing to gain from sharing their experiences, except the hope of helping other children like them. In the end, their bravery forced concrete changes, starting with the White House and across several government agencies. We'd like to thank the National Press Foundation for this award and all that you do to support journalism, especially now at a time when the industry can feel so under siege. And thank you also to our wonderful colleagues in the Times D.C. Bureau for all your work on these stories and for being here tonight. Thank you.
Presenting the Hinrich Foundation Award for Distinguished Reporting on Trade, NPF board member and Wall Street Journal reporter, Nancy Youssef.
Thank you, and good evening. On the judging panel for the Hinrich Trade Reporting Award, we said there was one series that highlighted the little sparks all over the world that trade ignited. That series was the work of 14 talented Bloomberg News journalists. Here to accept the award, Brendan Murray.
Typical Bloomberg, we show up in numbers usually. Good evening, and thanks to the National Press Foundation for this great event, and to the Hinrich Foundation for recognizing the importance of trade. It wasn't that long ago that the trade beat in Washington had just a few hardcore practitioners in niche publications whose audience was mostly lawyers and lobbyists. But as the saying goes in our newsroom, we're all trade reporters now. Whether you're covering the US-China showdown, the wars in Ukraine or Gaza, or even the fight against inflation around the world. Our entries for this award combined the data crunching work of Bloomberg economists with the close-up reporting from 12 bureaus across 5 continents to show how people and businesses are adapting to this newly fragmented and some might say perilous world we're living in. What we found was a more nuanced take in the globalization debate, that it was taking a new shape rather than dying out completely. So on behalf of my Bloomberg colleagues, thank you again for this recognition, which hopefully underscores the value of richly reported trade stories we're all pursuing to explain the consequences of the world we live in. Thanks.
Presenting the Innovative Storytelling Award, Hearst Newspaper's Senior Vice President and NPF board member, Patty Mikulski.
Mass shooting coverage is all too familiar in our newsrooms. So when journalists can make even their peers freeze for a moment, that matters. And that's exactly what the Washington Post team did with their series, The Blast Effect, using 3D animation to show the damage caused by an AR-15. We thank the families of the victims who shared their stories and commend the Post journalists for taking on this difficult topic in a new and meaningful way.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. The AR-15 is the firearm of choice for many mass killers. The weapon has been involved in 10 of the last 17. The weapon has been involved in 10 of the 17 deadliest mass shootings in the last decade. Yet, the carnage wrought by their bullets inside the human body is rarely seen by the public, and the damage is not widely understood. As we embarked upon the blast effect, we searched for new ways to illustrate with precision how this weapon works with such brutal efficiency. We wanted the presentation to be unflinching, yet respectful. My co-reporter, Attar Mirza, and I interviewed trauma surgeons, forensic pathologists, and ballistics experts to understand what sets this weapon apart. We worked with Manuel Canales and Ronald Paniagua to craft a 3D illustration that shows how a bullet fired by an AR-15, as compared to one by a handgun, will eviscerate human tissue and organs. But we knew that we needed to show this devastation on real people. We needed to show their actual mortal wounds. To do this, we obtained nearly 100 autopsy reports from AR-15 shootings. I read and analyzed these files and reviewed these pages of court testimony to detail the paths these bullets took inside each victim. Our story animates the trajectory of the 3 bullets that killed 6-year-old Noah Posner at Sandy Hook Elementary School, and the 13 bullets that struck 15-year-old Peter Wong while he was running down the hallway at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. We proceeded to depict Noah and Peter's wounds only with the permission of their families. When I talked to them, it was clear that they wanted their children to be remembered, and they wanted their stories of their lives and their deaths to be told. Those conversations were an important reminder of our duty as journalists, not just to our readers and to the public, but to the people we report on. Without their openness and bravery, we would have not been able to tell this story. Our project continues a strong legacy of digital innovation and visual journalism at the Washington Post. Extraordinary collaboration is the foundation of this work. There are many that contributed to this project. To name a few, it was shaped and made great by editors Ann Gerhardt, Peter Walston, Chiki Esteban, and Wendy Gallietta. It was designed by visual journalists Adet Tambe, Anna Lifkowitz, Reka Tanjara, and Madison Walls. It was an honor for all of us to work on this story, and we're grateful to the support and guidance from Sally Buxby, Matea Gold, and Philip Ruckert. So on behalf of the Washington Post and my colleagues here, I'd like to thank NPF for this award and for honoring our work tonight. Thank you.
And now, presenting the Saul Taishoff Award for Excellence in Broadcast Journalism, ABC News correspondent Deborah Roberts.
Good evening. What a delight to be in a room full of journalists to prove that the competing networks can get along. It is my honor and great pleasure to introduce tonight's recipient of the Saul Taishoff Award for Excellence in Broadcast Journalism. This is actually one of the easier assignments that I've had since I've known the honoree a few years. Al Roker is one of the shining stars of morning television. His sunny personality has brightened breakfast tables, given spunk to morning routines, and even inspired a kid or two to channel their inner weatherman with the Sunday forecast for more than 4 decades. Even though I'm cheering for a different morning crowd most days, anyway, I must admit that occasionally I check out Al to see, if nothing else, if his jokes go a little too far over the line. And his explanation that the crowd just loved it doesn't usually hold water with me. We all know that Al is an eternal optimist, a free spirit, and an ambassador of happiness. But a few things you may not know. Al has earned 13 Emmy Awards, many for in-depth interviews. He's a documentary filmmaker with a production company who recently completed a film on the shrinking ownership of farmland by America's black farmers, and another on hidden figures of women who you didn't know about who had a hidden assignment during World War II. And he began his career as a DJ at his college radio station at Oswego State University, his alma mater. Okay, I guess there's somebody here who likes Oswego. Television was actually a happy accident for him. Al is a gifted illustrator, Jen. If he wasn't doing weather, he would likely be the brains behind a successful comic strip. Maybe he'll team up with you at some point. He knows every word to the Elton John hit song, Philadelphia Freedom, and to the popular 1970s hit TV show, Bonanza. Whoever knew there were lyrics to that actual song? Al Roker did. Al is inherently curious, disciplined, and devoted to his television career. Yes, he will stop at nothing to chase a fierce hurricane or a nor'easter. We've seen tape of him falling down to actually prove that. But he's also just as driven to track down nice and beautiful interviews like Charles Schultz's final interview before his death, or former First Lady Michelle Obama for a morning chat about her gardening at the White House, or Rita Moreno to discuss her career longevity, or the cast of Ghostbusters to hear about the latest in that film's franchise. He has a varied range of interest. In short, Al simply loves television and reporting. And as his late father, Al Roker Sr., used to say when asked if his son is really as fun as he is in person as he appears to be on television, what you see is what you get, he says. And nothing could be truer. In addition to being a team player on that other morning show, The Today Show, and other NBC programs like Nightly News, a doting father and now grandfather, Al Roker is the consummate broadcaster. He brings truth, curiosity, honesty, and fortunately for all of us here, a dose of good humor in everything he does. So would you please join me in saluting our favorite weather guy and my husband of 28 years, Al Roker, with the 2024 recipient of the Saul Taishoff Award for Excellence in Journalism.
Good morning, everybody. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods. Oh! You deserve to be celebrated. Way to go, Reynolds.
Oh, Al, you're all of our heroes. Yeah. Y'all love Al Roker.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you, sweetheart. Oh, your glasses. Yes, there you go. First of all, I want to thank my presenter and wife, Deborah Roberts, who is also the co-anchor of 2020, just recently named, with David Muir. And I'm really thankful for other reasons besides being the mother to our children and is just a terrific broadcaster, journalist, and juggler of our family. I do learn every day from her what it is like to really be a journalist. For those of you who may or may not know, I was pretty ill about a year ago, and she helped pull me through that. Although since then there have been days she's reconsidered that. But that's another story. I was looking in the program here, and it's kind of interesting because it says Roker has entered people's homes. As a black man, that's not an easy thing to do. So I'm just thrilled being here. I want to thank the National Press Foundation for this prestigious award. I do have a suggestion, though. Given your choice of this year's award, you may need to reevaluate your selection and criteria. But really, congratulations to all the other really worthy winners this evening. I am truly humbled in all your presence. This is my 50th year doing television weather. Yes, I was there when they invented the thing. They actually just built a TV station around where I was standing. But in that time, I have watched what was once considered a forecast and frivolity that was used to backtime local newscasts to reporting on, thanks to climate change, what I consider the most existential threat for our planet. And I am so proud of the work that we do at the NBC News Climate Unit to tell not only the extent of this problem, but the solutions that can help us change course for our planet's survival. And that is what keeps me excited, the ever-changing role that weather and climate plays in our very existence. It keeps me coming back to work every day on Today, that, and of course the free food and the cooking segments. So if there is one thing I implore especially the print journalists in the room, when you talk about AI, would you please have your editors put a dash between the A and the I? Because when you read it, it looks like it says Al. And I don't want to be blamed for the end of the world. Thank you so much for this award. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Please enjoy your dinner. The program will resume in 30 minutes. Thank you.
Welcome back. And now, Ed Farrow, President and NPF Chairman of the Board, Amos Sneed.
All right. Thank you. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that delicious dinner. But before we go on, there's a few people we need to thank that made tonight possible. So I'd like to ask our advisory committee co-chairs, the co-chairs of tonight's dinner, Liz Sidoti and David Hudson, and the rest of the advisory committee, please stand. Liz, David, thank you, and thank you to all of the advisory committee. I've been involved with the National Press Foundation now for over a decade, and I've had the great opportunity to serve as chairman of the executive committee the past 2 years. So this is, as my term comes to an end, this is my final dinner as chair, but it is the first time I can welcome my family to the dinner. So I'd like to quickly say hello to my wife, Whitney, my brother, Mark, and our kids, Emery, Harrison, and Barrett, who will undoubtedly go back to school next week and tell everyone we all had dinner with Al Roker. I'm also delighted to be handing off my chairman duties to Terry Samuel. Terry, could you please take a moment, wave to your fans? That was good. I know that NPF's role supporting journalists worldwide will be in good hands with Terry, so thank you very much, Terry. I'd also like to introduce 2 new awards. Starting next year, the Wounded Warrior Project Awards for outstanding coverage of veterans will provide 2 newsrooms with $5,000 each for shining a light on this important issue and this important population. So we'd like to welcome that award in. And starting right now, we're going to recognize reporting on another too often overlooked group, and that is with the AARP Awards for Excellence in Journalism on Aging. And here to present this award for the first time is board member, NPF board member, and AARP Senior VP of Communications, Mr. Bill Walsh. Bill, please join us up here.
Thank you all. I am so delighted to be here, particularly as a former reporter or a recovering reporter. It's great to be in a room full of reporters once again. But I'm here tonight to present the inaugural National Press Foundation AARP Award for Excellence in Journalism on Aging. These awards were created last year to recognize outstanding contributions to the public's understanding of one of the major societal, economic, and demographic trends of our time, the increase in human longevity. Living longer is something to celebrate, but it can bring profound challenges as well. Harmful stereotypes, age discrimination, gaping disparities, enormous caregiving costs, and public systems wholly unprepared to provide for longer lifespans. This year's winner of the large media outlet addressed those stereotypes head-on. Her story showed that what really matters is not numerical age, but our abilities, the value of our experience, and the audacity of our ambitions. Please join me in congratulating Tara Bahrampour of the Washington Post.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As an aging reporter, I have to make sure I can see. Thanks to the National Press Foundation and to AARP for this honor, and congratulations to all my colleagues. I'm thrilled that the topic of aging is getting this new award here and getting increased recognition everywhere. Our growing aging population is a major demographic and economic challenge, as my fellow winners of this award have demonstrated. Yet it can be hard to make it compelling for readers. And that's one reason why we decided to focus on older people who belie the stereotypes. When we show a 77-year-old man pouring concrete for a living, or a 56-year-old woman completing 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents, and people coming out as trans in their 50s, and beyond. We shake up expectations and help readers see them as relatable individuals, which is a vital step in bringing them out of the shadows. I am very grateful to the Washington Post for giving this topic a bright spotlight, and to my editors, Anna Shin and Ryan Basic, for advising, shaping, and helping make my work worthy of this award. Thank you.
All right. And the National Press Foundation AARP Award for Small and Regional Outlet goes to a series that exposed the shortage of elder care workers, the pressure nursing homes are under, and the meager state oversight. These pieces told readers a troubling story in one state that is playing out in communities across our nation. It's a story that's likely to affect everyone in this room at some point or another. Congratulations to Dave Altimari and Jenna Carlesso of the Connecticut Mirror.
I'd like to thank the foundation for this award. It's quite an honor to win the inaugural award. especially for a little nonprofit in Connecticut. Unfortunately, my colleague Jenna Carlesso couldn't be here tonight. She's actually the person that came up with this idea and pushed it to the finish line along with our editors. Connecticut is one of the oldest states in the country, oldest people in the country, also one of the oldest states actually, but one of the people are one of the oldest and one of the top 5. And COVID hit us terribly hard, especially in the nursing homes. And so we thought, what now? And it turns out that the state did have a plan to try to put money away from nursing homes into home health care, but they had no plan to regulate that industry. So just last week, the governor introduced a bill, his first ever aging bill, that will address some of the problems that we raised in our series and hopefully make life better for our senior citizens in our state. So thank you very much.
Presenting the Everett McKinley Dirksen Award for Distinguished Reporting of Congress, Donna Leinwan Leger.
Good evening, everyone. It is so wonderful to see a room so packed full of journalists. So thank you all for being here. It's my distinct honor to present the Everett McKinley Dirksen Award for Distinguished Reporting of Congress, created 44 years ago to recognize U.S.-based journalists whose work shows thoughtful appraisal and insight into the workings of U.S. Congress and that adheres to the highest standards of journalism. The journalists who will receive this award tonight took their readers behind the scenes to chronicle Senator Dianne Feinstein's final months in the Senate, her absences, her infirmities, and the debate over whether the 89-year-old senator should relinquish the seat she had held since 1992. They served their hometown readership well, the judges said, raising legitimate issues without being unkind or callous. Their reporting was tough, but also human. Congratulations to Los Angeles Times reporters Benjamin Oreskes, Kevin Rector, Noah Bierman, Melanie Mason, and Cameron Joseph for their outstanding work.
It's a great honor to accept this award from the National Press Foundation on behalf of the Los Angeles Times. The last month has been tough for our paper. It's actually been terrible, and for this whole industry at large. So I'm glad to be here with colleagues and really friends to celebrate great journalism, work that inspires people and upholds the goals we all value as reporters. Our reporting about the late Senator Dianne Feinstein stemmed from a simple question. We wanted to know what California's representation looked like in Congress at a pivotal moment in our country. This meant pulling in reporters in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, in Washington, and it showed the importance of a news organization to its community and why the work we do matters. We kept hearing from readers who are voters, there's 22 million voters in California, what was going on in D.C., why wasn't she there? And we really just wanted to tell people what was going on and what was happening. We strove to be empathetic, we strove to be fair and unflinching as we gave citizens the tools to understand whether or not the government that was there was working for them. With stylish writing, deep reporting, and beautiful photography, I think we accomplished that task. So thank you again for spotlighting these stories that my many talented colleagues and I wrote. Thank you.
And now, please welcome Knight Kiplinger.
Good evening. Most of us probably remember the first big news stories, national, international triumphs, tragedies, that crept into our consciousness when we were young. One of my earliest childhood memories of a major national news event was the ugly violence that surrounded the integration of Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. To many of you, that's perhaps just a footnote in a history book. The year was 1957, and I was a boy of 9 living in Chevy Chase, Maryland, the son and grandson of journalists. I was shocked to see, as a 9-year-old boy, on the TV news each evening, jeering mobs of teenagers and adults taunting and threatening the first black students arriving at their new high school. And soon, the mobs were seen surrounding and beating black journalists covering the story. The lady sitting down a few seats at my right tonight, just behind the beautiful flowers, was also watching that horrifying TV news from Little Rock. But she, a young woman of 20, was watching in the newsroom of the Tri-State Defender, a small black weekly newspaper in Memphis, Tennessee, a few hours' drive from the Arkansas state capitol. Dorothy Butler had recently graduated from college at Lincoln University in Missouri, where she had studied journalism. She had been at this small weekly in Memphis just a few months. Her editor, Alex Wilson, had set out for Little Rock a few days before to cover this emerging national story. He had explicitly told his rookie reporter to stay back in Memphis. "It's too dangerous over there for a girl," he said. But when Miss Butler learned that her boss had been brutally beaten by a mob while standing proud and tall and refusing to run, she defied his orders. She and a veteran photographer at the paper drove the few hours to Little Rock. They arrived in time to report on the arrival of hundreds of National Guard troops called out by President Eisenhower to protect and to escort the new students to Central High School. Black journalists covering the civil rights struggle in the South were like war correspondents in a combat zone. Facing danger in Little Rock was Dorothy's first act of courage in a long life of courageous acts, some personal, some professional. 5 years later, in 1962, after a stint in Chicago with Jet magazine and a master's degree in journalism from Columbia, Dorothy Butler was a second-year general assignment reporter at the Washington Post. The Post sent her to Oxford, Mississippi, to report on black citizen reaction to the tumultuous integration of Ole Miss University by student James Meredith. This civil rights milestone was marked by extreme violence by angry segregationists, their anger often directed against the journalists there in Oxford. Approaching Oxford in their car at dusk, Dorothy and a colleague were pulled over by menacing men in a pickup truck, waving guns. They were told to stay out of Oxford. They told the men they were heading to Jackson to see a relative. Quick thinking. They were allowed to pass. They continued to Oxford that night, finding safe refuge at the home of a black family. No hotel rooms to be found in Oxford that night. Well, Dorothy Butler's coverage of her time in Mississippi surrounding those events in Oxford ran on the front page of the Washington Post back home. One of the civil rights leaders she interviewed on that trip, the fearless Medgar Evers, was assassinated a year later in Jackson, outside his own home at the age of 36. There are so many reasons Dorothy Butler Gilliam is being honored tonight. For her work in the African American press before she came to the Post as its first black female reporter in 1961. And for her work in the 1970s in helping to shape the Post's innovative new lifestyle section of the paper, which was dubbed simply Style. She was a reporter and assistant editor of that seminal section. And she is being honored tonight for 18 years of writing a widely read, provocative column in the Metro section of the Post. Twice a week, 1,500 columns in 18 years. As a young newspaper journalist in Washington in the 70s and early 80s, Dorothy Gilliam's column twice weekly in the Post was must-read for me as a reporter. But Dorothy Gilliam was not content to simply do great journalism herself. Dorothy Gilliam made it her life's work to mentor and promote the careers of young journalists of color. She passionately believed that diverse newsrooms produce better journalism by portraying America more accurately. She played a role in organizing or leading virtually every minority journalist development program in our profession, then and now. She also taught journalism at Howard and American universities in Washington. The W.M. Kiplinger Award has been given over the last 40 years to numerous people for whom and with whom Dorothy worked over her long career, starting with the legendary Chicago publisher John H. Johnson, founder of Ebony and Jet magazines. One of Dorothy's closest Post colleagues in the 60s and 70s, and her tireless compatriot in mentoring journalists of color, was editor Robert C. Maynard. He was honored with this citation in 1989, along with his wife, journalist Nancy Hicks Maynard, with whom he bought and revitalized the Oakland, California Tribune in 1983. And one of Dorothy's early mentors when she first came to Washington in the 1960s was reporter, columnist, and TV commentator Carl Rowan. He a winner of this Kiplinger Award in 1997. Oh, and a few other colleagues from the Post you might have heard of. Ben Bradlee, Katharine Graham, David Broder, and her former editor in the Metro section, Bob Woodward. All of these previous winners of this award. In this pantheon of our profession, Dorothy Gilliam has a rightful place. The title of Dorothy's fascinating autobiography, and if you only read 2 or 3 books this year, this should be one of them, is Trailblazer. And that single word captures the essence of this woman's remarkable life. Please welcome this year's winner of the W.M. Kiplinger Award for Distinguished Contributions to Journalism, Dorothy Butler Gilliam.
Good evening. Thank you so very much for this award. I really, really appreciate it. And I echo the phrase I've heard from so many tonight, how wonderful it is to be in a room full of journalists. It has just been so long since I have been retired that, I had forgotten how wonderful journalists are. And so it's great to be here. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about, my own personal evolution. It'll be less than 3 or 4 minutes. And, when I became a journalist, early on, diversity was just part of my raison d'etre. Diversity was just it was so clear to me how important it was. And so one of the reasons it was so important was that not only did journalism make reporting and make stories and make all of those kinds of things come alive, but it also inspired people to really, in communities, to really work, to really listen, to really, be a part of the larger U.S. Diversity was a part of that. And I can remember, for example, when I first came to the Post, when there were no people of color, as has been stated, it was just a matter of time before, by using all these methods of diversity, we were able to expand that and to really, I think, make such a difference, not just in the lives of the people who were a part of the story, but also a part of this city and a part of this nation. And so I'm very, very pleased to know that tonight, as we're being honored also for diversity. Diversity is so important still in this country, even though it's being attacked on a daily basis. We know how important it is. One of the things that makes this so important to me is that we want to have a nation that is inclusive. We don't want a nation that is exclusive. And that has been, I think, the wishes of so many in this country, despite what the political landscape looks like today. And of course, diversity is very much a part of that, very much a part of making that real. When I look around, I see that when the things we write about, those stories spur people to action. It makes people want to do something. It makes them want to be better. It makes them want to make the nation better. And this is what I think is one of the important aspects of diversity, because as these stories are written, as they cross racial and ethnic and other lines, there is a certain coming together that is involved, and I think that's of crucial importance. When I look at my own career and I look around me, I think of so many people who are almost like citizen activists, because they read something that you have written or something that I have written, and they take action as a result of that. And I've seen that happen so often in my time as a journalist. And I remember, for example, the way when I wrote stories or columns about the fact that the response of people who knew that in George Washington and Mount Vernon, they had just taken all the bodies of the formerly enslaved persons and literally dumped them, in the same graveyard. There had been no attention paid to the fact that they had given so much service and to what a great price had been paid. But when I wrote about it, there was a group of women in Virginia who just became a cause for them. And they went to work, and they now have, a beautiful memorial for these formerly enslaved persons. And, it's just an example of what can be done and what will be done, if we write about the kinds of things that we think really touch people's hearts. And diversity is one of those things that really touch people's hearts. And just in closing, I wanted to just share, how important it is, it has been for me to realize that, journalism is a field that, doesn't give once, it just keeps giving. And I think some of the awards that have been announced tonight, where so much work went into writing some of the stories and the series that are being talked about, this tells us that, this is a profession that we just must continue to let grow. This is a profession that we must continue. In fact, we must recognize that it is one of the most important professions in the world, because this is the way that people learn about who they are, who their neighbors are, what this country is about, and of course, the people who make a difference, who make that happen, are people like you who are in this audience, as you have made it, very, very clear. So I hope that, each of you will make sure that diversity is a part of, your institutions. I know some of you have already done that, and, I salute those of you who have. But for those who have not, I hope that you will really consider the importance of making diversity a part of, of your institutions, a part of your own life, and a part of what can be really the future of this nation. So I thank you so very much for this award, and I would like to just thank again to Mr. Kiplinger and to just everyone who has been so very, very kind and so very, very generous, both in their words, but also in their actions. Thank you very much.
Please welcome back Amos Sneed.
Thank you very much. As Ann mentioned earlier, it's a difficult and indeed dangerous time for journalists. Nearly 100 journalists were killed in 2023, with Gaza being the deadliest conflict for media in more than 30 years. Artist and humanitarian Gianluca Constantini has provided portraits of those lost. I will now ask you to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Last year also marked a near record in the number of journalists who were imprisoned. And one of those was American Evan Gershkovich, who was wrongfully detained while reporting in Russia. And the National Press Foundation continues to join with other media organizations to demand Evan's release. It is absolutely imperative to upholding press freedom. And now I would like to invite up Paul Beckett of the Wall Street Journal, who has been working tirelessly to bring Evan home. Paul, on behalf of all of us, thank you for accepting this citation on his behalf, and thank you for your work.
Good evening, and our sincere thanks to the National Press Foundation. Thank you to Amos for this chairman's citation for Evan. He is in the company of wonderful winners, and on behalf of him, his family, and the Wall Street Journal, I am honored to accept. The Wall Street Journal is also a proud sponsor of this event, and we are proud to have our reporter, Nancy Youssef, on the NPF board, and I was delighted to see a couple of my Wall Street Journal colleagues as alumni of the NPF Fellowship Program. March 29th, 6 weeks from now, will mark 1 year that Evan has been unlawfully detained in Russia on a false charge of espionage. He is being held in a Moscow prison known for its aim of isolating and disorienting its inmates. Fortunately, Evan is strong and resolute, and he works very hard at maintaining his equilibrium. We are grateful for that, and we live in hope that he will be freed before long. Evan's family, his colleagues, our many allies in the media and beyond, are relying on President Biden's promise made to Evan's parents to bring their son home. As we all know, Evan is being targeted for doing valuable journalism in a country that now considers independent journalism to be a crime. As we work to secure Evan's release, it is worth remembering what it is that we are fighting for beyond the return of our cherished colleague. Evans is not an isolated case, nor will the issues his detention raises end when he is finally released. Just months after Evan was seized, Alsu Kurmasheva, a journalist with Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, was seized by Russia while visiting her mother. President Putin has not only effectively taken 2 hostages, he has sent a threatening warning to everyone else. This is a government-led assault on the provision of trustworthy information on which millions of people rely. That is what we as journalists provide, and in an era rife with misinformation and propaganda and mistrust, protecting and uplifting those who dedicate their careers to digging for verified facts, especially in dangerous places, must be a central motivation for all of us in journalism today. An assault on press freedom against one Wall Street Journal reporter and one radio reporter in one far-off place is an attack on a fundamental freedom that we rely on to do all of our jobs wherever we are every day. It is an excellent moment to remind ourselves of the National Press Foundation's mission to make good journalists better. The way we can all do that in this room as journalists and as those who support journalists, we can do that by bearing witness to those reporters whose freedoms have been denied, by taking time to think and talk about them, by being loud on social media about them, by contributing to organizations that advocate for them, by working together to support them, by pushing our elected representatives to do what it takes to protect them, by writing stories about attacks on all media, and by putting the broader cause of press freedom at the center of our newsrooms and at the center of the journalism and the causes that we pursue. We are extremely grateful for all of your support these past 11 months. I hope we can continue to count on it as we gear up to ensure that Evan's one-year mark is widely commemorated and that it is the last milestone that he spends behind bars. Thank you.
And now, presenting the Benjamin C. Bradlee Editor of the Year Award, USA Today Editor-in-Chief and incoming NPF Chair of the Board, Terrence Samuel.
My name is Terrence Samuel. I am from USA Today, and so I will be brief. I've been waiting 8 months to make that joke. And I will never be able to make it again. It's not even true anymore. There's a USA Today person over there. Monica Richardson is a legend in this business. And part of the legend is how quietly she has done it. People simply talk about how amazing she is and how much she has helped them without ever talking that much about what an unbelievable human being she is. Which is interesting because, her quiet, steady demeanor is at odds with the person for whom this award is named. I was not at the Post when Ben Bradlee was there. He was gone, but he was executive chairman or some such emeritus title. And I would see him every day coming in and out of the building, and he was the Ben Bradlee that we all know, brash, loud, engaging, funny. And he made clear that his sense of what a great editor was somebody who made the room shake when they walked. Monica does a different thing. She makes you quiet and she makes you think. We're not friends. I've known her, but we're not really friends. But we were talking just now, and so you remember at the beginning of this, the video where the Capitol Police officer said that the thing he liked most about dealing with the media was people who treated him as a person and not a story. What I heard in that, and the thing I love most about this work, is reporting that goes to the specifics. That is how we get to tell the stories that are not stereotypical or miss the mark, because the reporting is so good that it's specific. And that is what Monica has done in Florida and in Atlanta before that, and what makes her the most amazingly deserving person for this year's Editor of the Year Award. Ladies and gentlemen, my new friend, Monica Richardson.
Thank you, Terry. I'm glad we're friends now. Thank you to the National Press Foundation, the NPF board, and the Nomination and Selection Committee, to my news organization, McClatchy, and most of all, to those who pray without ceasing for me, my family, my loved ones, and the people that I have in my personal boardroom. I talked about that earlier today. They're my personal hype team. We can't live without them. I also want to take a moment, I'm going to do this, the Kansas City Star right now, like many news organizations, has been covering a celebration turned tragedy, and I want to thank the Kansas City Star for the amazing local journalism they're providing on that story. Nearly 50 years ago, a young African-American girl with pigtails told her father that she'd one day be a writer. Her father gruffed, "Come on here, girl." He likely thought it would be one of a dozen dreams his little girl would have for her future, as most children do. Little did he know that it would not only be her dream come true, but eventually the dream she always wanted. In the little girl's mind, it wasn't just that she wanted to be a writer, but she wanted to change the world, to have an impact, even if only in a small way. Writing was her escape, her superpower. What she couldn't accomplish verbally, she could win wars and defeat villains with her words and her pen. Fast forward to today, and that little girl stands humbly before you, having had the opportunity in her lifetime to not only be a writer, but to work with some of the best and most amazing journalists and writers in the country. That little girl today is living her dream, honored to receive this award in the name of a journalist and leader, Ben Bradlee, who was known for setting exacting standards. A journalist who would strive to have independence and fairness in his coverage, compelling writing. He left a lasting mark in our industry. But I'm different from Ben. As a woman, and as a Black woman in this industry, I've faced challenges that Ben undoubtedly didn't face. I'm a testimony, as are others like me, that the hills are steeper and there is hidden quicksand along the journey. This is something we each in our own way have the power to change. Yet and still, I'm a Black woman doing things that some, admittedly or not, would say isn't or shouldn't be possible. But having the courage and the mind of that little girl, I can tell you I believe in conquering the impossible. Mary McLeod Bethune said it best, "Without faith, nothing is possible. With it, nothing is impossible." Without faith, nothing is possible. With it, nothing is impossible. My dream now is one we should all share, to help others seek their full potential and see their communities better because of the work that we do as First Amendment fighters and protectors. Being at the helm of the Miami Herald when we won a staff Pulitzer Prize for coverage of the condo building collapse in South Florida was bittersweet. The first thing that Rick Hirsch and I did was direct the newsroom to do what we knew was important. We asked for 98 seconds of silence. 98 seconds for the 98 lives lost in that horrific tragedy. I couldn't have asked for a better newsroom or news organization to experience that coverage with. It was our goal to leave the community better from our coverage. We weren't in it for the award. Our duty was to find the answers for the families left to pick up the pieces of that collapsed building, to do our part in ensuring that it would never happen again. As journalists, we are called to be servants. We are called to fulfill a purpose that is embodied in a sense of collective community. In my 30 years as a journalist, I've learned that the work we do truly matters. And I leave you with this call to action to remember that what you do matters. So be bold about your purpose and your mission. Be bold about your collective mission. We are here to help see and hear the humanity of others, to hold powerful people and institutions to account, to provide and deliver information that ultimately provides a sense of shared community in an increasingly pluralistic society. Somewhere out there today is another young person with an even bigger dream to carry on the work that we do for generations. So let's do everything we can today to help their dreams come true. Thank you for this award.
That concludes the National Press Foundation Awards for this evening. Congratulations to all of our wonderful winners. If you would like to be in their company, there's $25,000 in awards up for grabs at nationalpress.org. So please put your best work forward. I'd like to thank again Lenovo and all of our sponsors here tonight for helping us put on such a wonderful event. And I hope that you all enjoy the rest of your night and come back next year. Thank you.